The champagne flutes caught the light from the chandeliers, casting tiny rainbows across the white tablecloths. 200 guests filled the riverside ballroom, their laughter and conversation creating that particular hum of a celebration where everyone's trying just hard enough to be impressive. My sister Brooke stood at the center of it all, radiant in a cream silk dress that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Her left hand, the one with the ring, seemed to have a life of its own, finding reasons to gesture, to touch her hair, to rest delicately on her fiancé's arm where the diamond could catch every possible angle of light. 2 carats, platinum setting. 3 months of Daniel's salary, as Brooke had mentioned at least a dozen times tonight. I stood near the bar with a glass of Pinot Noir, watching my parents glow with pride every time Brooke retold the proposal story. The restaurant overlooking, the harbor, the violinist, the way Daniel had gotten down on one knee just as the sun was setting. My mother asked about the ring's clarity. My father wanted to know about the cut. They examined it like gemologists, turning Brooke's hand this way and that, marveling at their future son-in-law's excellent taste. I'd congratulated them both when I arrived, smiled, said all the right things. Then I'd drifted to the periphery where I'd spent most family gatherings for the past 8 years. Present but unnoticed, like furniture no one remembers buying. That's when Uncle James walked in. James wasn't just my father's younger brother. He was the one who'd left our small Midwestern town 30 years ago and made a fortune in Silicon Valley venture capital. He was also the only family member who'd stayed in touch with me, who called on my birthday, who remembered what I did for a living. Sorry I'm late, everyone. His voice carried across the room as he navigated through the crowd. Flight from San Francisco got delayed. He hugged Brooke first, shook Daniel's hand with genuine warmth, congratulated them both. Then he turned to me, and his whole face lit up. Sophia. He pulled me into a tight embrace. God, it's good to see you. You look incredible. When he stepped back, he kept his hands on my shoulders, studying my face with the kind of attention that made something in my chest tighten. How's life in that house you bought? He asked. The one on Sterling Heights? Is the neighborhood everything? You hoped? The conversation around us stopped, not gradually, not a gentle tapering off, just stopped. Like someone had pressed pause on the entire party. Brooke's hand, the one that had been in constant motion showing off the ring, froze mid-gesture. My mother's champagne flute halted halfway to her lips. My father's face went very still, the way it did when he was trying to process information that didn't make sense. James. My father's voice came out careful, measured. What house? I took a slow sip of my wine, letting the moment stretch. 8 years. 8 years of being the daughter who didn't quite measure up, whose accomplishments were met with polite disinterest, whose life was treated like a footnote to Brooke's main narrative. And now, finally, the truth was walking into the light. The house on Sterling Heights, James said, accepting a champagne flute from a passing server. The craftsman Sophia bought back in 2016. Gorgeous place. That view of the mountains. He shook his head appreciatively. Spectacular. I stayed there last time I was in town. Brooke found her voice first, sharp with disbelief. Sophia doesn't own a house. She rents that apartment near the university. I rented that apartment, I corrected gently, for about 2 years during my PhD program. Then I bought the house on Sterling Heights. That was 8 years ago. My father's champagne. Flute tilted dangerously in his grip. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the 5-bedroom craftsman I purchased for $1.2 million in June 2016. I kept my voice even, conversational. The one that's now valued at approximately $1.5 million, according to recent market comparables. The number seemed to echo in the sudden silence. My mother's hand flew to her throat. My father looked like someone had struck him. Brooke's carefully practiced smile crumbled at the edges. That's impossible. My mother breathed. Where would you get over $1 million? I put down $240,000 and financed the rest, I explained. Though I paid off the mortgage 6 years ago. James nodded approvingly. Smart move. Sophia's always been brilliant with money. That signing bonus from Helix Pharmaceuticals, she put the entire amount toward the mortgage principal. Paid off. Nearly $1 million in 2 years. Signing bonus? My father's voice came out faint. What signing bonus? From when I started at Helix, I said. They offered me $180,000 as a signing bonus to leave my postdoc position. I accepted and used it all to pay down the mortgage. Brooke's voice turned strangled. You got a $180,000 signing bonus? That's standard for senior positions in pharmaceutical research, I said. My current annual compensation is $375,000, including bonuses and stock options. The silence that followed was absolute. Someone's champagne flute actually slipped from their fingers and shattered on the marble floor. Several guests turned to look, then quickly looked away from the tableau of my family frozen in shock. My mother looked like she might faint. $375,000, my father repeated mechanically. A year. Base salary is $280,000, I clarified. Annual. Performance bonuses average around $60,000, and my stock options vested this year at approximately $35,000. James smiled. Sophia's being modest. Those stock options? She's sitting on another $420,000 in unvested equity, plus the patent royalties. Patent royalties? My mother whispered the words like they were in a foreign language. I hold 11 patents in oncology drug delivery systems, I said. They generate approximately $95,000 annually in licensing fees. Brooke's hand, still frozen in midair, began to tremble. The 2-carat engagement ring suddenly looked very small. My parents stood completely still, trying to process information that clearly didn't fit their understanding of me, of my life, of the daughter they thought they knew. I don't understand, my mother said, her voice breaking. You're a pharmaceutical researcher. How can you possibly afford all this? I'm the director of oncology research at Helix Pharmaceuticals, I corrected gently. I oversee a department of 47 researchers. We're currently in phase 3 trials for a drug that could revolutionize pancreatic cancer treatment. James pulled out his phone, scrolling through something. Actually, Sophia's work was featured in Nature Medicine last month. The article called her research groundbreaking and potentially Nobel-worthy. Nobel Prize, my father said hoarsely. It's early to talk about that, I said, uncomfortable with the speculation. But the research is promising. If the phase 3 trials succeed, we could save thousands of lives annually. Brooke found her voice, sharp and defensive. Why didn't you tell us about any of this? I looked at her for a long moment. This sister I'd grown up with, this woman who'd never once asked about my work, my life, anything that mattered to me. I did tell you, I said quietly. Multiple times. You didn't listen. That's not true, my father protested. James set down his phone. Actually, it is true. I have the emails. He started ticking off on his fingers. November 2016. Sophia told you about the house. Dad, you said she was being financially irresponsible. Mom, you asked if she was sure she could handle the maintenance. My mother opened her mouth to protest, but James continued. April 2018. Sophia mentioned paying off the mortgage at Easter dinner. You asked if that meant she'd lost her job. We didn't, my mother started. You did, I confirmed. You assumed that paying off a mortgage meant I was unemployed, not that I'd been financially successful enough to eliminate the debt. The distinction seemed to wound my mother. Her eyes filled with tears. My father's jaw clenched so hard I could see the muscle jumping. Uncle James continued as if reading from a script. Sophia, have you made a decision about the lake house investment? That property was stunning. What? Lake house? my father demanded. There's a luxury property available on Lake Serenity, James explained. 6 bedrooms, private dock, 3 acres. Sophia's considering purchasing it as a vacation rental property. Why would Sophia buy a vacation? Rental? Brooke asked, her voice thin. For income diversification, James said. She already owns 4 rental properties in addition to her primary residence. This would be her 6th property overall. The revelation hit like a physical blow. My mother actually swayed on her feet. My father grabbed her elbow to steady her. Brooke looked like someone had slapped her. 4 rental properties, my mother whispered. Small single-family homes in emerging neighborhoods, I said. I buy them below market, update them, and rent them to young professionals. Average cash flow of about $1,800 per unit after all expenses. That's $7,200 a month, my father calculated automatically. That's over $86,000 a year in rental income, James added, plus appreciation. Those properties have increased in value by an average of 42% since Sophia purchased them. Her total real estate equity across all properties is approximately $2.1 million. The numbers kept landing, like artillery shells. Brooke's engagement ring hand dropped to her side, forgotten. My parents stood frozen, trying to reconcile this version of their daughter with the one they'd constructed in their heads. The quiet one, the bookish one, the one who didn't need attention or celebration. $2 million in real estate, my father said slowly. That's just the real estate, James corrected. Sophia's total net worth is closer to $3.2 million when you include her retirement accounts, investment portfolio, stock, options, and liquid assets. $3 million. Brooke's voice came out strangled. $3.2 million, I corrected quietly. Though these are estimates, market fluctuations could change the exact figure. My mother's champagne flute slipped from her fingers, joining the earlier casualty on the floor. This time she didn't even notice. You're a multimillionaire, she breathed. On paper, I said. Most of it's invested or in real estate equity. Dr. Elizabeth Park, one of James's colleagues from a medical research foundation, approached our group with a warm smile. Sophia, I didn't know you'd be here. She embraced me warmly. Congratulations on the FDA breakthrough designation. That's incredible news. Thank you, Elizabeth, I said. We're very excited about the potential. FDA breakthrough? My father's voice was faint. The FDA granted our pancreatic cancer drug breakthrough therapy designation 3 weeks ago, I explained. It fast-tracks the approval process. If everything goes well, we could have approval within 18 months instead of the usual 4 years. Elizabeth beamed. Sophia's work is going to save countless lives. She's brilliant. She turned to me. Are you coming to the conference in Geneva next month? I'll be presenting our Phase 3 preliminary data, I confirmed. Presenting at a conference, my mother said faintly. In Geneva. The International Oncology Research Symposium, I said. I'm giving the keynote address on novel drug delivery mechanisms. It's a fairly significant honor in the field. Fairly significant? James scoffed. Sophia's the youngest keynote speaker in the symposium's 40-year history. It's a huge deal. Brooke's voice turned bitter. So you're just famous? Is that what this is? I'm not famous, I said. I'm respected in my field. There's a difference. Your research has been cited over 4,000 times, Elizabeth pointed out. You've published 37 peer-reviewed papers. You've revolutionized oncology drug delivery. That's more than respect, Sophia. That's recognition of genuine brilliance. The praise felt uncomfortable, but I appreciated Elizabeth's support. My parents looked shell-shocked. Brooke looked like she was going to be sick. I need some air, Brooke said, pushing through the crowd toward the balcony. Her fiancé hesitated, looking between Brooke and our family group, then followed her. My mother started to go after them, but my father held her back. Let them go, Patricia, he said quietly. We need to talk to Sophia. What's there to talk about? I asked. Uncle James mentioned my house. You didn't know I had one. Now you do. That's the whole conversation. It's not, my mother said, tears streaming down her face. How can you have achieved all of this and we didn't know? Because you never asked, I said simply. Because every conversation about my life got redirected to Brooke. Because you assumed that since I wasn't posting on social media or seeking attention, I must not have anything worth sharing. James nodded. I've been watching it for years. Every phone call, every family gathering. It's the Brooke show. Brooke's job. Brooke's boyfriend. Brooke's engagement. Sophia could cure cancer, and you'd ask if Brooke wanted dessert. That's not fair, my father said. Isn't it? James challenged. When was the last time you asked Sophia about her research, her home, her life? When was the last time you treated her like she might have something worth celebrating? The silence was damning. My father looked away. My mother sobbed openly. I can tell you exactly when, I said quietly. You asked about my research 6 years ago at Thanksgiving. I started explaining my work on nanoparticle drug delivery, and you interrupted. After 2 minutes to ask Brooke about her new apartment. You haven't asked since. The specificity of the memory seemed to break something in my mother. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. For what? I asked. For not listening? For not caring? For spending 8 years treating me like I was less important than Brooke? We love you both equally, my father insisted. Do you? I asked. Can you tell me what company I work for? What my job title is? What disease I research? Where I live? Anything about my actual life? The silence stretched. My father's jaw worked. My mother's tears fell onto her dress, leaving dark spots on the silk. Helix Pharmaceuticals, James provided. Director of Oncology Research, pancreatic cancer. 2847 Sterling Heights Drive. Sophia oversees breakthrough drug development that could save thousands of lives annually. We should have known all that, my mother said. Yes, I agreed. You should have. My father's voice came out rough. What do you want from us, Sophia? Nothing, I said, and realized it was true. I wanted you to be proud of me. I wanted you to be interested in my work. I wanted you to see me. But I stopped wanting that about 4 years ago, when I finally accepted it wasn't going to happen. It can happen now, my mother pleaded. Can it? I asked. Or do you just want access to your millionaire daughter? Do you want to know me? Or do you want to brag about me now that you can't pretend I'm the disappointing child? The accusation landed. Hard. My mother flinched. My father looked stricken. We never thought you were disappointing, my father said. You just thought I was less impressive than Brooke, I corrected. Less successful. Less worthy of your time and attention. You were wrong. You were catastrophically wrong. But you didn't. No, because you never bothered to look. James placed a hand on my shoulder. Sophia, maybe we should... I'm leaving, I said, cutting him off gently. This is Brooke's night. I shouldn't have come. Sophia, please, my mother said, reaching for me. I stepped back. Enjoy the party. Celebrate Brooke's engagement. It's what you're good at. I walked toward the exit, my heels clicking against the marble floor. Behind me, I heard my mother call my name, but I didn't turn around. Uncle James caught up with me in the lobby. You okay? I think so, I said. That was harder than I expected. You were perfect, he said. Calm, dignified, truthful, everything they needed to hear. They're going to call, I said. Tonight? Tomorrow. They're going to want to fix this. Maybe, James agreed. But you don't owe them an easy reconciliation. You've spent 8 years trying to be seen. If they want a relationship now, they need to earn it. What if they can't? Then you'll be fine, he said firmly. You have an incredible career, financial security, meaningful work that saves lives, and people who actually appreciate you. You don't need parents who only valued you when they learned your net worth. He was right. I knew he was right, but it still ached. "Thank you," I said, hugging him. "For seeing me. For being proud of me," he said. "Always." I drove home to Sterling Heights, to my 5-bedroom craftsman with its mountain views and custom finishes, to the life I'd built with my own brilliance, my own dedication, my own relentless work. Inside, everything was exactly as I'd left it. The home office where I reviewed research data and wrote papers that advanced medical science. The library filled with medical journals and oncology textbooks. The guest suite where Uncle James stayed during his visits. The master suite with its spa bathroom and walk-in closet. Every room represented a choice I'd made, a goal I'd achieved, a dream I'd realized. Not for my parents' approval, not for recognition, but because this was the life I wanted. My phone started ringing. My mother. I let it go to voicemail. Then my father called. Voicemail again. A text from Brooke. "You couldn't let me have one night." I set the phone down and walked through my house, room by room. The kitchen where I'd hosted dinner parties my parents had never attended. The backyard with its garden where I grew vegetables for the local food bank. The basement I'd converted into a home gym and meditation space. The anger I'd expected didn't come. Instead, there was just clarity. Clean, cold, liberating clarity. I'd built something extraordinary. I'd achieved financial independence, professional recognition, and meaningful impact. I was revolutionizing cancer treatment. I was on track for achievements my parents couldn't even comprehend. And I'd done it all without their knowledge, support, or approval, which meant I didn't need those things to succeed. I never had. Tomorrow, there would be more calls. More attempts at reconciliation. More demands that I make them feel better about their failures. But tonight, I stood in my $1.5 million house, surrounded by 8 years of quiet achievement, and let myself feel the full weight of what I'd accomplished. Without them, despite them, in spite of them. And maybe that was the real victory, not just the success itself, but discovering I didn't need their validation to know my own worth. The invisible daughter had been seen all along, just not by the people she'd expected. If you're listening to this, and you've ever felt overlooked in your own family, invisible, in rooms full of people who should know you best, I want you to hear this. Your worth isn't measured by who notices you. Your achievements don't become real only when someone else acknowledges them. You don't need to be the loudest person in the room to be the most accomplished. Sometimes the quietest victories are the most profound. Sometimes the people who should see you clearly are too blinded by their own assumptions to recognize who you've become. And sometimes that's okay. Because you're not building your life for an audience. You're building it for yourself. And that, more than anything else, is enough.